Hi everybody. So this is a recap on day 4, which was the Werner Vogels keynote, and just take you through what was discussed there. So Werner Vogels is the CTO of Amazon. His keynote is always focused at the engineer, the developer, and yes, it was, but also there's quite some significant stuff. So in focusing on the engineer and developer, but he's also focused on the big subjects of the day and some things that he feels needs addressing. So it's a wider outlook generally, but not that business focused. Now, the big thing, and it's the thing that's defined in the next 20 years, the next 50 years of our lives, and how we're going to move, is sustainability. We saw COP26, we've seen governments pledge whatever they've pledged, and big corporates also coming up with big pledges. This was about us all and everybody delivering on these pledges. It's about having our own pledges and doing our own bit and putting the power in the hands of the engineer and also each business, no matter how big or small, to make a difference. So sustainability was the big thing. How that address? Well, we also had the carbon footprint in the previous announcement report, so I spoke a bit about on my last update. Linked to that is a 6th pillar of the well-architected home framework. For those who don't know what the well-architected framework, it's basically a best practice of how to architect things in AWS. And at Inner Wisdom, we are well-architected partners. We do focus on machine learning, but we do it in a well-architected style and also on the data analytics front. So it's very important to us. And sustainability came the 6th pillar alongside security, operational excellence, cost optimization, performance, and operational excellence. So the 6th pillar, and what it will mean is that we all think about how we architect solutions fundamentally different than we do today. And it's something that in my career I've never focused on, actually, and it's a big new learning thing for me. So I had I'm always up for learning something new, as those people that know me understand, and I'm going to learn how to write sustainable architectures, design sustainable architectures, write sustainable architectures codes, and that's going to be important, and that's going to be a big thing for the next years, and that's going to relate, and it's going to break down into kind of 2 or 3 different areas, really. So there's the whole cloud versus on-prem thing, as we saw from Adam's keynote. It's still early adoption of the cloud. There's still lots of on-prem kicking around, lots of money tied up in those on-prem things, but these big companies are making these big pledges about carbon net zero and so forth. So the way to get there is to use the cloud, because lots of the cloud, especially AWS, uses renewable energy. You're obviously sharing the assets, so the upfront costs and this carbon sinks into things like concrete, etc. You'll share, and therefore you're able to have a less of a big drop in and big lump of carbon at front, and obviously you're using renewables going forth. So there's going to be the total cost of ownership I spoke about the other day versus, so what's it like going to run it, keep it on-prem versus moving to cloud, and the cloud will probably, well, in most cases will win out, and we should see that. So that will be a choice that say, okay, it's going to be our pledges to net zero, especially some of the big enterprises, that will force more of their cloud adoption. So that's going to be significant. The other thing is within AWS itself and how you deploy stuff will have an impact from this. So it may be that there is regions where they're less sustainable, so it might not use so much renewable energy, for example, or there might be other complications. So most regions do use sustainable energy now, but there's some that don't, and you'll have a conscious decision to make. If you want to deploy it in that region, you'll have to trade latency maybe over carbon footprint. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic, and can't wait to see all the other bits that come out of that. So that's going to be really interesting to know. Maybe a different kind of processor has a slightly different instance type has a different carbon footprint as well. So it's going to be really interesting to understand how they work, and it probably will gravitate more towards serverless. There's obviously proxies at the moment in cost for this stuff on AWS, but it'll be interesting how that pans out. So it's really exciting that what they announced, and it's going to be a great year of understanding what that means getting more into it, understanding it more, and there's going to be a couple of good, obviously, I think there's a couple of good sessions on it already at reInvent, so I'm probably going to go back and watch them and get up to it, because the biggest change probably in my career in technology architecture. Well, architecture as it is, a great thing, but I've kind of known that throughout my career. It's things that have always been taught in university: security, performance. It's those old non-functionals. This is a new non-functional, something I don't know too much myself. So really looking forward to getting into that space and understanding what that does and how machine learning can help predict maybe things like carbon usage and help understand how to operate things more efficiently to lower your carbon footprint, that kind of thing. So I think it will have an impact to us, but wait to see. And I'm really excited to get into that. Outside of sustainability, then we did enter the engineering world, really, and the developer world of AWS. So the rest of the announcements are pretty geared towards if you are a developer on AWS and making your life simpler and more enriched, I would say. So a couple of standout ones. So the CDK is basically a way of deploying cloud infrastructure, but using code, an actual programming language code versus CloudFormation, which is from scripts and is JSON and YAML. This is about, if more you program it in the language of your choice, and then it goes and deploys those assets and create those other bits of the CloudFormation for you. So it's something that we've looked at in Wisdom. It's something that we've run one or two projects on, but it's generally something we've been a little bit reserved to getting into, and that's because there hasn't been so much coverage in the areas that we care about, and that's machine learning, etc. So some of the constructs and that kind of thing that exists around SageMaker, but the signal yesterday was it's probably gone from that early adopter stage where it's been in, where we've seen some to a more serious and massive adoption phase. So I think that's something that we will expand upon this year, get more into. We'll probably do more deployments with it. We'll probably move somewhat over some deployments to it. So the CDK for us is probably at that maturity stage where we're all going to get more involved. So that's good. The other thing is Amplify. So a recurring thing in Wisdom is we're doing more and more with the user of applications and embedding ML in applications, not just overall business processes and big architectures. We're doing it in individual applications, and that's either by having predictive ML or dashboards, etc., inside these things. And there's times when we have to build our own custom user interfaces for these to show the possible, to deliver that value, to crisp up that dashboard or that insight so that in front of that end user. And we have a specialist team that deliver that already. But it's a very choppy, turny world going from front end to back end, and Amplify is trying to address that. So what that will allow is and the changes in yesterday around Amplify Studio and also the export feature will allow user experience people to design the user experience first and make sure it's liable and rich, and then and Amplify, and then use Amplify Studio, and then you can export it to things like the CDK, etc. That will then allow our engineers to grapple it and take that rigor and get that engineering rigor and make it and own it and operationalize it and run it for the long term. So I think that's an interesting development, and that should really aid our ability to rapidly show value to the customer, and then also provide the engineering excellence that they expect from any in the Wisdom workload. So that's an important thing. So that's kind of most standout stuff for me. So that concludes reInvent 2021. It's been a good one. I think my summary, apart from the sustainability bit, is that it's been focused on doing the right things well this time. Instead of promising maybe as many new services as previous reInvents, this is focused on maybe a few less of those, but the ones that have been announced are going to make a small but going to make a big difference to the everyday. It's going to help adoption, it's going to help engineering, and it's going to smooth things out. So I think it's very much been focused on a quality aspect and making sure that they go back maybe to deliver the right thing well, versus quantity and all of what we've seen in the last couple of years, where maybe things were not quite so ready before they went into preview. So I think it's a great maybe shift and focus a little bit more to the quality end. And of course it was hybrid. That was very different. I think it kind of worked. It was better than last year, obviously, because there was the buzz on social and community of people getting together, but a little bit more needed on the community side, I think, for us remotees this year. That said, I had a ball yesterday at Consum, so that was a good laugh. So that's good. So on the whole, a very positive re:Invent, and I'm looking forward to actually getting back there next year. So I hope, all being well, I will be at 2022 re:Invent on the ground, and I'll probably do some of these things from there. So looking forward to that already. In the meantime, I'm sure it's going to be another exciting year in Wisdom, and it's going to be really good for our customers and seeing what innovation and value we can deliver for them. And anything left to say is, as you're coming up to the holiday season and festivities, those who celebrate it, have a great Christmas. Those who are just having time off, fair enough, enjoy that. But whatever you do, make sure you spend time with your family, or those people that matter, because if there's something I've learned this year personally, is that it's about those minutes that you spend with your loved ones, and make sure you spend and cherish them. So hope everyone has a good time off, and you spend great times with your cherished ones, and I'll hopefully see you again sometime in the new year.